Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Sorry for being late. Technology just let us down, but thank you for waiting. My name is Dozo Zulu from the Student Retention Unit. Welcome. Thank you for taking your time to join us today to this live broadcast. The purpose of this broadcast basically it's to motivate and inspire you as our first year students in your academic journey. Today's topic is a very interesting one, and I have esteemed guests who are going to unpack this topic. Today we are talking about dropping off out of a course. Yes, it sounds scary, the topic, but you're here to learn and to be motivated and to be inspired in your academic journey. So thank you for your time and welcome. Just to go over a few house rules, may you kindly please switch off your cameras when you join, or if you're already here, your camera is switched off, and then also your audio, so that we do not disturb our guests today as they unpack our wonderful topic. Thank you so much for joining us. Those are basically our house rules. And just to alert you, you will get time, because this is an hour conversation, you will get time to actually pose your questions we give at the end of the presentation. So thank you so much for joining us and for your time, so stay tuned. I have two guests today. Our guest is Mr. Lucky Libebe. He's an environmental assessment practitioner, and then joining him also is Kagiso Muhonwe, who's doing her third year in industrial engineering. So without further ado, I'm just going to let our guest actually unpack this wonderful topic. Thank you. Please stay tuned.
Okay, there we go. Good morning, everybody. Okay, let's do this. And oh yes, I hope I am there now. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to all the students, the first year students at the University of South Africa, UNISA. We want to welcome you to this session, and I want to believe that you are going to get information that will inspire you to become successful in your enrollment with UNISA, particularly as first year students. So as Ntogozo has already said, my name is Lucky Libebe. By profession, I am an environmental engineer. We are also called environmental assessment practitioners. So I am in the green environment, and my colleague Kagiso is actually a fourth year university student in industrial engineering, and therefore we will just be sharing information around this topic of dropout. So first of all, I'm going to start out with an overview. I'm going to start out with an overview of what the rate of school dropout has been in our country over the years. And so what I'm going to do is we will be looking at what the dropout rate in South African universities as a whole, and also in basic education like South African secondary and primary schools have been, that is before the COVID pandemic and now during the COVID pandemic. And then we will also be looking at different reasons why the student bodies drop off and are unable to complete their degrees. So yes, the first part of our presentation will be a problem statement, but then we will also be prescribing what we believe is constructive solutions that can be implemented by the student bodies within the South African universities, you know, just to ensure that you can continue with your studies successfully. So let me give you an overview of what the rate of, you know, school dropout has been like in South Africa before 2020 of the COVID pandemic, and this year 2021, and also what it was like before. I want to start out by saying this is a research and findings that are made by an institution called the National Income Dynamic Study in South Africa. What they came out to a conclusion is they came to a conclusion that all South African universities put together can only accommodate 18% of all South African matriculants. That means every year, 18% of matriculants, learners that matriculate, only 18% of them can actually be accommodated in our current South African university. So that already is one of the major problems of academic exclusion and why some people will not even at first place be absorbed into the system. So it's an issue of institutional capacity where we don't have enough universities to accommodate the population of matriculants that actually complete their matric every year. So only 18% of matriculated students will be able to be accommodated within the South African universities. Now, here is another sad thing. This National Income Dynamic Study also established that of that 18% that makes it to university admission, they established that 47% of them will drop out before the end of the year. So already you are dealing with a problem where we have got a small fraction of students that due to institutional capacity make it to university, but then you have the secondary problem which 47% of them will drop out of their study before the end of their first year enrollment at university. Now, the study continues to say that in distance learning institutions like UNISA, the percentage of students that will drop off, it actually before COVID, that is somewhere between the years 2015 and until 2018, 2019. In distance learning institution, the number of drop-off has increased by up to 68%. So that means 68% of the students that get admitted in a distance learning institute like UNISA will drop out of school. So you can see that, retention is a very big problem within the academic institution, and that is why many universities like UNISA have now established, student retention units to try and keep students in the system before, they can actually drop out. So that is the scenario. So number one, we have established the fact that there is a problem of institutional capacity or the number of students that can be taken into the university, and that it doesn't even constitute dropping out. It's just pure academic exclusion now. And we also said that our universities can only take 18% of matriculants that pass their matrics every year. So those of you that are in the system and you have been admitted and enrolled into UNISA, you really have to consider yourself very lucky because of a number of factors that I've already mentioned that can potentially exclude you from academic admission. Now, let me look at other shocking figures that relates to what the dropout rate in South Africa was before COVID-19. These studies were done between the year 2015, 2016, up until 2019. This is a shocking discovery. It was discovered that in the year 2018 and 2019, more than 230,000 students dropped out of school. Now, this is before COVID-19. More than 230,000 students dropped out of school in the year 2018 and 2019 for other reasons that I will get into. That figure has now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, actually tripled. The latest statistics that were released again by the National Income Dynamic Study shows that between the period of March 2020 and April and May 2021, these are recent findings, they were able to establish that more than 750,000 students have dropped out since COVID-19 to date. That is a number that is almost close to 1 million students that have dropped out, since COVID-19. So you can see that student retention has, with COVID-19 pandemic, become an extremely huge crisis within our nation, and that means more and more students are being excluded. Now, the number that I gave you of 750,000 and more students that dropped out over the past 1 year, that number refers to, obviously, a basic education, like your secondary and primary school levels. So the problem of dropout, it is indeed a national crisis. So apart from the fact that we do not have enough universities to take in students, what are some of the reasons why students are dropping out in such huge number? My focus is going to be on socio-economic factors, and Kagiso will touch on things that relate to lifestyle and other issues that students face on a daily basis. In 2015 and year 2016, there was a national movement called Fees Must Fall movement in South Africa, and although it started in Wits, it ultimately became a national movement. And the movement also came out of the fact that there was an increasing number of students that were dropping out of school, and therefore the student masses were worried and they wanted to address these issues. Now, some of the issues that were reasons why at the time students were dropping out in such numbers, and those reasons still, some of them extend to this day. One of those reasons was government spending on a student funding, for an example, where the NSFAS scheme was unable to take as much students as the system demanded. So the fact that there was underfunding or underspending by government on student assistance, on financial assistance to students, actually led to so many of them dropping out. And then the second one was for institutional reasons, when universities would increase tuition fees, and that rendered academic feasibility something impossible for most part of students, and then consequently a lot of them dropped out of the system. And going back to issues of government, when the Ministry of Higher Education pronounced an escalation of fees, then again that led to so many students actually dropping out of the system. So secondary to the fact that we have got issues of institutional capacity, secondly, we have issues of financial constraint as one of the major key contributing factors to students that are actually dropping out. The last point that is connected to the NSFAS system, which millions of students are relying on, it's a systematic or systemic issue. And how the NSFAS was then arranged in those years, 2015 and 2016, is that as a student progresses from first year to second year, and should they fail a certain number of courses, then the NSFAS system was not able to retain them. And therefore, again, because of lack of financial backup, then these students would drop off. So the second thing, again, relates to the financial feasibility or affordability of actually studying. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, things have become even more challenging, because on top of the fact that we as a country have institutional constraints and constraints around capacity, where only 18% of matric students can be accommodated by our universities. On top of that, the COVID-19 has introduced a new chain of impact that continues to contribute to the reason why students are actually dropping out. And one of the things that the COVID-19 has done, of course, is the fact that it has resulted in a lot of retrenchments happening. It was estimated that over 3 million people lost their jobs in 2020 over the lockdown period. And then, of course, when people lose their jobs, then what happens is the supply chain that stabilizes access to education then also becomes affected. So what then happens is, as parents lose jobs, then the students' ability or to afford education subsequently gets affected and so forth. And therefore you see lockdown resulting in national retrenchments of high proportion, and ultimately students being unable, because of lack of third-party support or parental support, to afford the cost of education, consequently then dropping out of their programs. So that is what happened. And then parallel to that is again, students have got other issues that they have to deal with in the course of their studies, and I think those issues then Gahiso will then get into that those issues as well and unpack them for us. But all of these are problem statements. Number one, I've highlighted that we have got problems of institutional capacity in our country, and because we don't have enough universities to accommodate the number of matriculants, many of them are primarily excluded from admission, even from first year. Secondly, I've highlighted the fact that government spending, government underspending on student financial assistance has contributed to many students actually dropping out. And the third thing I said, the systemic issue and institutional issues. Institution increases their tuition fees, and as you study further, education ends up being something that is not affordable to you, and then you consequently drop out. And the other thing is the structure of the NSFAS system, in a way that when students fail their courses, they are unable to get further funding to continue with their studies. And that again has resulted in reasons why students are failing. So I know that this already sounds like huge problems. You think about this and you say correct, and you can tick all of them and say you are correct, and there may be even other issues that you as the students are thinking about, and you are probably wondering, okay, what is the solution now? Our solution can never be one-sided, as I said, because this is a combination of a number of factors. We will need an interplay of institutional and statutory solutions that should be taken into consideration to resolve some of these problems. Problems that have to do with government underspending or underfunding of financial assistance to students, then will require statutory intervention. That it's a problem that should be resolved with the Ministry of Higher Education to ensure that we can see how we can help students to access financial assistance even furthermore. And maybe what we can do at the statutory or governmental level is to increase the number of student funding, not just to have one particular scheme and other student loans that are only available options to assist the students. And then secondly, on institutions, the increment of tuition fee by certain academic institution also contribute to the reason why there is dropout. And again, we will need institutional intervention on that, where some universities will then have to come into place and maybe not increase fees to a level that excludes other students and so forth. And then more than all of these things, I want to just buttress the last point before Kagiso takes over, is the fact that we will need a personal determination from students, a personal tenacity, that you as students, number one, I've already said that we can only take 18% of matriculants in our institution. So number one, you should consider yourself very lucky that you are part of the few that are absorbed into the system. So you need to do anything you can in your power and ability to remain in the system. Otherwise, you will be part of a majority that is already excluded. So I appreciate the fact that it is almost a privilege rather than a right for you to be admitted in an institution of high learning. And that must influence, your response and your attitude towards education. You should be tenacious enough to not allow, minor problems and minor reasons and small excuses to make you stay away from these things. And I can only emphasize that tenacity, pushing and making things happen and striving to succeed has to become our attitude. As students, we cannot afford to give up at the least resistance. You cannot drop off your courses simply because printers are not working, or simply because you don't have transport money to get on the bus to go to school. You must appreciate the fact that academic inequality and exclusion is so high in our country, and therefore we don't have a luxury for certain things. So as student masses, have that attitude that says, it's not going to be easy, it's going to be difficult. There are so many reasons ranging from governmental, institutional, and other forms of reasons that Kagiso will take you through that can potentially exclude you, but you have to fight your way. This is part of you establishing a personal economic freedom for your life. You need this education, and you need to use any possible solution to actually fight your way through. I'm gonna pause out here for now, and I will allow Kagiso to come and take over, as she would be outlining to you some of the problem statements and the solutions before we allow you to take questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Greetings to everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Kagiso Mohonwe, and I am a fourth year industrial engineering student, and I will be sharing with you guys my personal story and experience with studying with higher education, and some of the challenges that I've encountered as a student and how I've managed to solve them and how we basically surviving. And I hope in doing so, I will inspire some of you to continue. And if you're encountering the same problem or similar, just to know that you are not alone. So yes, now my focus today will be on reasons why many students are choosing wrong career path. Before I go into that, let me just, for everyone to be comfortable, I would love to share my own personal story, how I came about, why did I study what I'm studying, and everything. So I was born and raised in a village, and I moved to Pretoria in a township called Mamelodi when I was about 14, where I continued the rest of my high school learning, and I completed my matric in the year of 2017. And I was admitted to one of the top universities in engineering, and it's been going good but challenging. So while on the topic of dropping out and challenges as students, I personally have been one of the students that were unfortunately excluded from university. In the year 2018, I was excluded due to, there were several reasons. The first reason, it was poor academic performance, and the second reason was financial exclusion. So there was a lot of things that were going on, and the third thing that I'd love to talk about is the disadvantages and cultural shocks that comes with being in this new environment as a student. You can imagine, I grew up in a township. I was not interacting with a lot of different people. I was not really, I didn't have enough knowledge, or rather experience with interacting with different people of different backgrounds. And also, I was really shocked by their culture, if you know what I'm saying, because I go to a university that has a lot of different ethnic groups, if you get the idea and the picture. Back at home, it was just me and everyone that I'm used to. But now I was put into this new environment where I had to excel and I'm expected to thrive. But there is a lot of challenges. There is a lot of mountains to climb. There's a lot of rivers to cross. And that was very hectic. And I know some of you are going through the same thing. And today I'm here to tell you that you can make it. You can not only make it, but you can grow. You can find your way through everything and every challenge, because trust me, it is not easy. And I think one of the problem is that when you're a student, especially if you did well, because I did well in my matric, completed very nicely with good results, part of the provincial awards, things like that. It was a lot of things. But when I went into university was totally different from high school. It was a new lifestyle. It was a new culture. It was a new environment that I had to find my way and I had to adapt. Anyways, I think you guys have a better understanding of who I am, what happened with my life, and now I can get into the real issue, because I always think people listen to you much more better when they know a little about you. Mm. So I hope you found an idea of what I am, what I'm doing, and everything like that. So now getting into the topic of choosing the wrong career path. Now, before I get into that, I just want us to look into states. When I was doing these readings and doing my research, I found really interesting stuff and I was shook. Like, oh my goodness, what is happening? So according to the research that was made by Harvard University and in cooperation with Prof. Fishbot, there is 21% graduates, only 21% graduates with a college and a university that are currently using their degrees, their qualification right now. And also 39% of them are considering change. That's hectic, I know. And 70% of the workforce is actively looking for better life opportunities. So think about it. In the industry right now, 70% of the workforce is considering changing. They're considering looking into different opportunities, getting better salary, getting better experience. So that tells us that there is a lot of movement. There is a lot of there isn't much stability in the workplaces and in most of these study fields. And the shocking one is that only 14% of the workforce believe that they have a perfect career and they are happy where they are. So from the 100%, we only have a portion of 40% of people that believe that they are doing what they are meant to do and they are actually enjoying what they are doing. And that gives us a very good idea of what is going on. And I believe, I don't know if I can say this, but one of the interesting facts that I found was that apparently 91%, not apparently, but this is based on research by the Harvard University, 91% of the millennials are expected to change jobs in 3 years. That is a very short period of time. So that tells you that there is a lot of changes. There's a lot of movement going up and down. And this is bringing us as a nation and as people to alert to say that there's something wrong that we're doing in careers. There's something wrong that we are doing in the workplace. So yes, based on the stats, now we can go into our information. So now, what are some of the reasons why people are choosing wrong career path? Number one is lack of adequate information needed to make the decision at that point. Because think about it, this is a lifetime decision that you make. And most of the time, actually not most of the time, all of us had to make that decision at the age between 17 and 19. That's when you're completing your high school qualification, you're moving into higher education learning. And at that point, research has shown that adolescents and young adults, both from teens, 20s, and 30s, most of the time, people make decisions based on habits and their own personal experiences. What do I mean by that? It simply means that people make decisions based on social pressures. That's the first thing. Secondly, under the pressure of a time frame where they are making decisions. I'll give you an example. When I was in matric, I made a decision of studying engineering because at that point, I was doing science. That was convenient for me to go into engineering. Secondly, it is a decision that I made because according to my own little research, I will tell you now, I didn't make enough research, but according to my own little research, I found out that there was more opportunities in engineering. And at first I had went into mechanical engineering, and then I had to transition to industrial engineering in the middle of my degree. Then we'll get to that later. But what I'm trying to say is that people don't make decisions based on facts all the time. And according to research by Harvard University, it is stated that people make less optimal decisions without considering both the consequences of the positive side and the negative side, and also not determining the likelihood of both cases happening. And lastly, not integrating the consequences of the positive and the negative and making an informed decision. So that tells us that when we make decisions about careers at a young age, whether you are a teenager, in your 20s, in your 30s, there is clear evidence and stats that shows that these decisions are made but not based on facts, not based on information that is very true and very evident and that lead people to making good decisions. But these decisions about careers and where people will be heading into jobs and employment are made based on habits and tradition sometimes. That is the very, very, very first problem that we have. Secondly, I am gonna talk about careers evolving. So another challenge is that we have different careers evolving. We have different careers evolving in such a manner that right now, remember, we're in the middle of industrial revolution. So we have a lot of things changing. The workplace is no longer the same. We have a lot of new technological inventions. And that is actually, taking up space more than actual human labor force. So now the problem is two things. We have companies that are trying to maximize the profits and also minimize the cost of doing whatever they're doing. So now the challenge is we still have students that are going into field and studying qualifications that in 2 years, some of them, it's that hectic. In 2 years, and in 3 years, and 5 years, they will be replaced by robots. Some of them will be replaced by machines. Already there's been a great evidence and a great number of people that have been retrenched, only to be replaced by a machine and a robot. So that tells us that right now we're at a point, because of the industrial revolution and because of many changes that are happening, we're at a point where you do not only make a career choice based on the knowledge of who you are, what you want to do, and where you are going, but you need to be informed about the industry that you're going into. You need to be informed about the changes that are currently happening right now. Right, so there is a lot of factors that come into that. And my third point is to say that when you are making a career choice, it is not making a career choice cannot be narrowed down to one factor. There is different factors that need to be considered when one is taking a decision to study a certain course or to go into a certain industry. Now, I'm gonna talk about two things. Number one, I'm gonna talk about who are you, and secondly, what are you good at? So the first thing is we are under social pressure to do what we love, especially as young people. You're always told you should find your passion. Now, there's two different things. There's passion and there's reality. Passion is what you love. Reality is what you are. And I think there is a very thin line between those two. Actually, I don't think the line is thin. It's actually thick thinking about it, because they are completely two different ideas. There is passion, there is reality. Passion is what you love. Reality is what you are. Now, a lot of people find themselves making career decisions based on what they love. I'll give an example with me. I made a choice to say that I'm gonna do engineering because I love maths, because I love science. That's fine. And specifically, I chose mechanical engineering at first. That's what I loved. That's my passion. But now the problem is your passions and what you love and what you're good at doesn't necessarily guarantee your career success. What do I mean by that? You can be good at something. You can be good at what you are doing. You can be good at with numbers. You can be good with calculations. You can be good with maths, with science, but it doesn't guarantee the success of your overall career as an individual. So now, we need to consider, especially, I believe I'm talking to most young people, we need to consider the fact that we need to be honest with who we are, what we want, and the life that we want for ourselves, rather than finding something that you love and making decisions out of social pressures and focusing on what you want to do rather than actually choosing a career based on what society is expecting of you. So now I want to talk about what we need to change. I believe that we need to tune in and we need to tune out of the social pressures to find what we love and tune in into something more significant into our career lives and pursuing who we are and being honest with ourselves and going deeper into studying and making choices that are not only suitable for us but that we will enjoy and stick to in a lifetime. So yes, I'm not sure if I should be discussing the solutions right now of what I have spoken about, because I think my time is about, I don't know, I have little time. Can I continue with the questions, with the solutions?
It's just questions.
Okay, okay, we're taking questions?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna log off and then I think we'll be taking questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lipepe and Kagiso, for sharing your experiences and what is happening in our country. And thank you everybody for being tuned. I hope this is very, very educational for you. And more than anything, it's inspiring and motivating you that, you know, as a UNISA student, it can be hard to be studying in open distant learning, but at the same time, you're taking lessons, what is happening in our country, what is happening in the higher education system, and what is happening actually on a personal level, like how Kagiso was sharing her own personal story. For me, what I learned, I just want to go a few points. What I learned from her, what she was sharing, is that despite your background, you need to be able to, when you go or come into a higher institution of learning, you must firstly find yourself. And what I can take away also is that even though the statistics are very high on choosing your career and walking your academic journey, it's important that you have to channel you channel your academic journey so that in the next few years you are able to say, okay, I've chosen this course. I'm not going to drop off. It's not an easy journey, but what for me I can take away is that it's important that you channel your academic journey. As she was saying, that it can change. The statistics say that after 3 years it can change, but you have to choose. Don't drop off from your career. I mean, from your studies, but know that in 3 years it can change, and at the same time you must be able to adapt. And also, she mentioned that dropping off can be influenced by either the tradition, by different habits, personal experiences. The takeaway from me when she was saying that is that you have to do your research before you choose your course. You have to do your research. And she was saying, and I'm sure it goes for a lot of us, that, you know, we don't do a lot of research in finding out. It has to come from you in finding out, when I choose this course, in the next 3 years or in the next 5 years, what is my plan? What is going to happen? Things change. Of course, we don't know, but you have to channel, say, I'm choosing this course. This is my plan in the next 3 years. You have to do your research, and don't just choose a course whereby you don't have a plan. Just channel your choice so that the key is it should be based on fact. I think that's how she put it, actually. Should be based on research, should be based on fact. And also, Mr. Lucky also spoke about the alarming statistics which are in our country, that we have a lot of problems in higher education. He mentioned that there are institutional capacity from our country. So in a broader level, in our country, there are institutional problems, the government underspending. There are also systematic issues because of education can be very expensive, because most of us are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds. This is a generalization. So education education can be very expensive. That's why people can drop off. And also we have issues around the NSFAS funding. These are some of the issues that are making people to drop off. And these are the takeaways that I have from the presentation so far. However, can I just take a few questions from our chat box? I'm just going to have a look. Who has a question? Well, if you don't have questions, I'm assuming that you're enjoying the talk so much that you have nothing to ask, but you're just absorbing what our presenters have spoken about. So I don't know if it's a good thing, but I'm going to take it as if it's a good thing. The only question I can see if the recording is going to be shared, yes, we're going to post it on our project site, and also it's going to be available on YouTube. I just want to alert everybody that at the end of our talk, we're going to have a survey so that you're able to voice out some of the topics or something that you would like us to talk about that will motivate and inspire you in our academic journey. Because as a student retention unit, we care about you, and as UNISA, we want to provide you with tools which can assist you in your academic journey, because it's not just theory and just choosing a course, or because it's open distant learning, we're just leaving you there in your silos. No, we want you to feel that we care about your academic journey, and you can reach out to us whenever you have a question. We'll try to assist you. Okay, so one question would be, what would you say that learning online, it's from Nokanya. Would you say that learning online is difficult? That's one question. And then we also have a question from Vinolia. Hi, Vinolia. Could public relations be one of the careers to be taken over by robots? Vinolia is fascinated by robots, so she's worried. She's worried if she's choosing the right career. Some people are complaining about cameras, so sorry, I don't know how to assist you in that regard. Okay, I'm going to ask about the recording. Yes, the recording, we'll share the recording. It's going to be available on our student retention unit website also, so please look out for that. Guys, please post questions. You can also raise your hands. Oh, there are hands. Okay, let me check. Okay, here's Brian. Brian, you can go ahead, pose a question to us so that we can continue our conversation. Please unmute your mic and please ask your question. Brian, go ahead. Brian, are you there? Brian Dooley. Okay, Brian is taking. Hi.
Sorry. I missed quite a chunk of the session, so I was hoping I'd catch up with it on the recording.
Sorry.
So I don't really have I don't really have questions at this stage.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying, sorry.
Okay, you don't have a question. You're enjoying our talk. Are you feeling inspired?
I did miss quite a chunk of the discussion, and that's why I was asking if the recording will be shared.
Yes.
And I'm glad that it will be, but I suppose then one can ask questions or has an option to ask questions by email, perhaps once I've seen the recording.
Okay, no problem. We would really, yes, please do that. There's also Vinolia. Vinolia, do you want to pose your question? Your hand is up. Hi, Vinolia.
Hi, I was just
welcome. Yes, please pose the question.
I was just wondering if public relations could be one of the careers to be taken off by robots. Yeah.
Okay, I'm fascinated by robots. No, don't. Yeah, Lucky and Kagiso will answer your question. Please, guys, do pose a question. Don't feel shy. Or you're still taking in the statistics. They shouldn't alarm you. The whole point of this broadcast is to motivate you and inspire you, and for you to realize that an academic journey is not an easy, it's not an easy journey. But at the same time, we want you to be motivated to say, when you wake up tomorrow, yes, I'm going to continue with my studies. We are not undermining the different backgrounds and the environments that you might be like standing under, but we want you to actually be mindful of your environment and be able to maneuver yourself. We're not saying it's easy, no. And at the same time, we are also saying that, you know, you think about the future. Think about the future. We're not saying you know, but at the same time, you must be able to adapt. What is happening around you, what is happening in our country, you should be mindful of what is happening. There's also a guest, 5671. Your name is not, there's no name. So if you want to pose a question, please go ahead. 5671, your hand is up.
Hi, thank you for the platform. I would like to find out, man, if I want to change the career, how do I go about?
Okay, we're gonna answer that. Okay, I guess everybody else is happy then. I take it everybody is happy. Oh, okay.
No, not quite.
Do you
John asked a question, and I second that question.
Okay, thank you, Tabi saying. Okay, there's also another question from Johanna saying, I honestly and strongly believe there is nothing challenging about long distance learning. Okay, we note that, and I think there is we note that opinion. The challenge is now on the online route that has been taken. Data is expensive and most people are unfamiliar with technology. It hurts. I'm with you there, Johanna. And we are not stupid, but come from disadvantaged technology background. I can attest to it. If I had no help from current UNISA students assisting me, I would have dropped out, as it is frustrating and unfamiliar process which requires intense help. My question is our university aware, and are they really reaching out? Yes, I think, Johanna, this is a concern for many people. From my side as a UNISA representative, I can say that with reference to being disadvantaged technologically, we do have a MOOC that we provide and we require all first-year students to take. It's not compulsory, but it's voluntary. However, the MOOC will assist you in order to navigate around UNISA, technology and UNISA systems. So I think that's a first step to take, is to take the MOOC. When you enroll for your course, take the MOOC, because it will familiarize you with UNISA systems and technology as a whole. So that was Johanna's concern. Okay. Oh yes. Yeah. Here is TJ Lubisi. He's saying, I'm happy with my studies and there is no difficulties that I'm facing so far. Good for you, TJ. We are very happy for you. And please also note that as UNISA, we are providing that platform. Please give us credit. Thank you. There's also Jenna Candace saying, how does one defer certain modules? I think that's a UNISA process that you have to actually inquire, Jenna Candace, with your department, because I don't want to go through a procedure that for different departments it might be for different departments the procedure might be different. So you have to reach out to the admin of your department. I think those are the questions so far. Guys, give us thumbs up if you're very happy with this topic, or you're learning something, or something is bothering you with reference to this topic. Please do that. And please continue to post questions, because it seems like there is no other questions. So I'll hand over to Kagiso and Lucky to go through your concerns and the questions that we've passed. Thank you.
Okay, I hope everybody can see me. I'm gonna be answering some of the questions. I'd leave them to Mr. Lucky to answer them. So the first one, someone said learning online is difficult. Well, I'd say there is a lot of challenges learning online, but I'll give you what has been working for me because I'm also learning online. You must have a well-organized routine, how you're going to start your day, how you're going to work, and so that you know what you're going to be doing on a specific day and at a specific time, so that you don't waste time thinking, oh, maybe let me do this, let me do that, if you get my idea. So the first thing that I advise you, have a proper routine, have a if you are a person who can use to-do lists, you can do that if it works for you. If you're a very organized person like me, and you want to use maybe timetables, you're a routine person, that's very fine and it works for me. So I hope that is good enough advice for you. And then the second question somebody asked about, is public relation one of the courses that will be replaced by robots? So my answer to that is I cannot say no and I cannot say yes. This is why I'm going to explain why I'm saying that. So basically, if you study and you follow this whole industrial revolution thing, you will know that industrial revolution is not necessarily the taking over of the industry just like this, like immediately. No, it is small, it is evolving little by little and gravitating towards automating almost everything. So in terms of the public relation cost, what I'll say is that public relation is moving more into more personalized communication, wherein companies know that personalized information like that is very valuable for both their market and also selling products. So my advice to ever ask the question, I believe that you're studying public relation, is to say that I'd say that you must keep up with the new development of the career. Be on top of the game, because the point is to make sure that you are not outdated, you are not carrying knowledge from 2005 that is not going to be applicable in 2030. So my advice is to you is that public relation is still a good course, because I don't know if you guys know that companies buy data from, from Google and other things, because they use this for marketing, they use this to sell their products and so on. And I think, I hope that answered your question. So public relation, is it being taken over by robots? Not necessarily. You can keep up with the motion of the changes, so on and so forth. And then the last question is, how do I change careers? So changing careers, I think it depends. It depends, and it's different from institution to institution. Also depending, are you moving from one faculty to the other faculty, or what is going on? But generally, I will say this. When you're changing careers, first of all, I'd say look into the requirement of where you are going. What are the minimum requirement for the course that you're looking into transitioning into? Is it a different faculty? If so, check out the requirement and start with the process, communicate with your course administrators and look into that. But overall, I'd say that you can change at any time. You can change at any time, as long as you know that is what you want to do and you're very much passionate and you love it, and you can definitely pursue it. So yes, I think that's all the questions that I'm here to answer. The rest, I left them to Mr. Lucky. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to say thank you everybody for your time and the opportunity. On the question of learning online being difficult, I can agree that it is. Yes, some people do find learning online difficult for different reasons. One, it could be because they have poor time or program management, like Kagiso said, but we also are aware that there are certain localities where people struggle with connectivity, network, and access to data, or the affordability of data and so forth, and that contributes to the difficulty of learning online. But having said so, it's something we have to adapt to, because the fourth industrial revolution is driving education to online. So it's not something we can technically do away with. It's actually picking up momentum. The world as a whole is evolving towards online systems, and that's why we are having this online meeting right now. Because apart from COVID-19, and lockdown restrictions. That is where, you know, technology is evolving towards. On the question of public relations, Kagiso has answered that quite well. The only contribution I can make to that is that, yes, there is an extent to which the fourth industrial revolution is taking over public relations and customer care, but not completely. Banks have already introduced voice over systems when you're doing phone, banking on the phone and banking on the net. So I think we will have a different topic some other time, hopefully with Ntokozo's permission, to talk on online mailing and digital migration systems, to talk about the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on the day. Otherwise, thank you all for your time, and we hope to see you again. And we also hope that what we have shared with you will help you to navigate through the difficulties of learning and ensure that you complete your program. I also want to say to everybody, if you were thinking of dropping your course, maybe it is only prudent and advisable that you finish what you started. There could still be time to diversify to other courses a little bit later. You will find out when you get into the job market that the job market is actually integrated, and you might have not necessarily had to leave your course for another course. And that's why some of us have got 8 qualifications now, because of how integrated the job market is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Lucky and Kagiso, for sharing your thoughts and just making us to be open-minded of where we are right now in our studies. And actually, I think you guys ended up on a good note into making us aware that, you know, dropping out on a course, it's not a you shouldn't make emotional decisions right now, because your environment might not be actually providing, it might not be conducive for you. But at the same time, you know, you must be able to navigate your way and do not at all drop out of your studies. It's not an easy thing, and distant learning is not easy. Like Kagiso said, that you must be able to manage your time. So guys, I hope this was very inspirational for you and motivating you in order to continue with your studies. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Thank you for our esteemed guests for sharing their thoughts, their personal stories, and for actually going through the statistic of what is going on in the country and where the world is going as a whole. So thank you so much. So guys, please do not drop out of a course, because you know, like Lucky said, that you can always integrate it in future. You must be able to plan and say, in the next 3 or 4 years, this is where I want to go. So do not drop out of your course. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was very a valuable lesson for you, and thank you for joining us. And I would like you to please fill in a survey. We'll be sending out emails where you'll be able to voice out also your opinion on how did you find this session. Was it helpful for you? And also to maybe just well, Lucky will be invited again, as well as Kagiso, to look at other topics, but also for you to add on what is it that you want us to explore. How are we as student retention units, how can we assist you in your academic journey? Thank you everybody for joining us. Have a lovely day. Bye.